Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of 3 Wide. I'm your host, Radney Crawford, and today we have a number of topics to go over. From Sunday's race at Kansas, where Tyler Reddick was able to get the race win, advancing himself into the next round of the playoffs, and of course, the struggles of many playoff drivers, including regular season champion Martin Truex Jr. We'll also discuss the incident between Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson coming off of pit road, and also we'll look ahead to this upcoming race weekend at Bristol, so let's go ahead and get started. So before we get started on this week's episode, let me tell you about our presenting sponsor, Hunt to Harvest. If you are looking to upgrade or update your hunting apparel, then hunttoharvest.com is where you need to go. They have a wide selection of shirt designs for many types of hunting as well as fishing, and right now they are having a sale on their long sleeve shirts. So if you're looking to get a head start on your winter collection, then hunttoharvest.com has what you need. They also have some brand new hat designs in, and they are going fast. So head over to hunttoharvest.com and get your order in before it's too late. And when you go to check out, be sure to use the promo code RADNEY18923. That's RADNEY 18923 for even more savings at checkout. And this can all be done at hunttoharvest.com. So as I said, Tyler Reddick, he gets the race win on Sunday at Kansas in an impressive overtime finish where he's able to get around Joey Logano and Eric Jones while they were battling for the lead. And now Tyler Reddick is locked into the next round of the playoffs. And I was worried about Tyler. I mentioned in my previous video that I thought he may be one of the first ones eliminated in the playoffs with the inconsistencies he's shown throughout the year. But Tyler gets a big win. He started pretty solid in these playoffs, and now he gets to look ahead to the second round. But the biggest takeaway from Sunday's race was the struggles of many playoff drivers, most notably regular season champion Martin Truex Jr. As many playoff points as he accrued and as strong as he was throughout the season, many people, including myself, had him as a virtual lock for the championship four. We go into the race Sunday at Kansas. He has a small puncture in his right rear tire, causing him to crash just a few laps into the race. And now he goes into Bristol just 7 points below the cut line. And Bristol has not been a good track for Martin throughout his Cup career. In 32 career starts, he only has 2 top 5s and 4 top 10s. He did have a good run there back in 2021 where he qualified on the pole and finished 7th. And he's had good qualifying runs there over recent seasons. Just he doesn't always have the finish to match up with it. And on Saturday, he is going to have a complete race and maybe even more, given who's in front of him in the point standings that he's trying to battle for that final transfer spot. You have drivers like Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, last year's Bristol winner Chris Buescher. All three of these drivers are very strong at this track. And if Truex Jr. is eliminated on Saturday night, I believe it will start discussions on this playoff system, and I believe it should. Because the fact that the regular season champion, which typically means a driver who has been the most consistent or the most dominant throughout the regular season, can be eliminated in the first round of the playoffs, that just doesn't sit right with me. And what the fix for it is, I really am not sure, to be honest with you. Is it a first round bye for the regular season champ? Should more bonus points be added to it? Or should nothing be done at all? Should it be left untouched and let the system play out as it was meant to? I'm not sure what the answer there is. I would love to hear feedback on that and what you think it would. Feel free to leave a comment on what fix, or if any, needs to be done in this scenario. Then there was Bubba Wallace, who I think was the second biggest loser of this race. I looked at Sunday's race at Kansas as the perfect opportunity for Bubba to be able to put himself firmly above that cut line, or possibly even lock himself into the next round, given how well he has run there in the past few races. And Bubba had a good run going. He was running second at the time when he had a tire blowout, pretty much ending his day or any chance for a good points day. And now he goes into Bristol 19 points below the cut line. And like Truex, he goes to a track that he hasn't always been the strongest at. In just 8 career starts at Bristol, Bubba only has 1 top 10. And there are a lot of other drivers that are floating around that cutoff line besides Martin Truex and Bubba Wallace. You have Joey Logano, Kevin Harvick, Christopher Bell, Chris Buescher, as well as Ross Chastain. So this is going to be a very intense 500 laps at Bristol. And things can happen pretty quick at this track. So all these drivers are going to have to be racing with full awareness of what's going on around them and race a smart race. And this is going to be a very exciting weekend of racing at Bristol. The night race weekend is one of my favorite weekends of the whole race season. To me, it stands out and measures up to the weekends like Memorial Day race weekend at Charlotte, Speed Weeks at Daytona. This is one that I always look forward to. You'll have the Truck Series on Thursday night, where it's the first race of their second round in the playoffs. You have the Xfinity Series on Friday night, the first race of their playoffs, and Saturday night's Cup race, which is an elimination race. So before we dive into the silly season talk, let's talk for just a second about what was probably the more dramatic moment of the race, and that was contact between Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson coming off pit road, getting ready for the overtime restart. Now, drivers come in, getting their pit stops, getting ready for this final restart, and coming off pit road, you had a driver next to the grass. I forget who it was, but then next to him, you had Chase Elliott, then Kyle Larson on his inside. And as they're going down pit road, Brad Keselowski is leaving his pit stall right at the same time as they're going by, and 4 wide just isn't going to work on any pit road. Larson sees this, moves up the pit lane just a little bit, makes slight contact with Chase. Kind of a no harm, no foul deal. Just drivers trying to avoid a bigger incident. But as they're going around the apron of the corner, Chase takes a left turn, makes not really hard contact, but harder contact than what Larson did with him. And yes, is this a noteworthy event? I believe so, but I don't think it meets the level of hype and conversation that has gotten so far this week. You've had, fans, media members alike just going off from all different angles of this incident, from people saying, Chase lost his temper, he needs to be calmed down, what is he thinking, he's throwing a temper tantrum, to others saying Kyle Larson, pretty much deserved what he got, he could have hit his brakes, so on and so forth. I kind of meet in the middle on this. I don't think Chase should have reacted like that. You got to be aware of what's going around you on pit road like Larson was. But drivers showing their displeasure in this way, I mean, I'm more okay with that than, say, what we saw with William Byron and Denny Hamlin last year at Texas. And yes, Chase has had a frustrating year. And yes, Kyle and Chase have had their fair share of run-ins against each other. But I feel like this, making a mountain out of a molehill. And the only thing I would say, kind of rubbed me the wrong way was the way Chase handled it after the race, which is kind of shrugging his shoulders and being, I don't know what you're talking about. No message was trying to be sent, when it was apparent that was the case. And Chase may have been playing the NASCAR game where he can't come out and blatantly say, here's what I did and why I did it, for fear of being, punished by NASCAR. And meanwhile, Kyle Larson, you had him in his interview saying when Chase goes back and watches the replay, I believe he'll understand it. He'll realize what he did. And from what Chase said on Sirius XM today, that's pretty much exactly what happened. In the team meeting, Chase watched the video, realized, hey, I didn't have all the information. I didn't realize what was going on. And, I shouldn't have done that. No harm, no foul. Moving on. Granted, I'm sure this will continue to be a topic of conversation throughout at least the next week until whatever happens at Bristol happens. But I just don't think it meets the level of hype that we've been hearing and seeing on social media and on radio. Now, moving on to silly season. Last week, it was announced that John Hunter Nemechek will be driving the 42 car for Legacy Motor Club next year in the team's first year with Toyota. Also, it is believed that Harrison Burton will be signing a deal to come back to the 21 car for Wood Brothers Racing in 2024. As for the John Hunter signing, I believe this is a huge home run for Legacy. Obviously, John Hunter, being a Toyota driver, this move made sense. It kind of wasn't really a surprise. And I think this sets up Legacy to have a really strong 2024 season, possibly up to the level that we saw with Trackhouse last year and RFK this season. And John Hunter's long road to get back to the Cup Series in a competitive ride finally comes to an end. And we've seen over the past few weeks with Carson Hocevar behind the wheel of that 42 car that there is life in that 42 team, that they do have a good car and good speed. And I think when you put a driver like John Hunter in it, all the experience he has, I believe will only help that team even more. As for Harrison Burton and coming back to the 21 car, again, that's just a move that makes sense. Who else are you going to go get that can outperform Harrison in that car in the grand scheme of things? I know you got Zane Smith down there, but Wood Brothers Racing, they're not this team that's going to run up front week in and week out. With Harrison, you have a young driver who's fully funded, and he is a raw talent. He's proven he can win in the Xfinity Series. Harrison was just thrown into the deep end of the pool, and slowly but surely you see him figuring out how to swim. Yeah, his average finish is lower this year, but he is finishing more races. And that's the first big step when it comes to development. So to me, that move makes sense. I just don't know who you could go get that you expected to just place in there and immediately improve the results. And this upcoming weekend at Bristol, we could have even more silly season news announced. Chris Rice, I saw a video over this past weekend how he hopes to have an announcement made this weekend at Bristol for their 2024 plans. And this is going to be a pretty big announcement if it's made. You know, rumors are AJ Allmendinger may be getting ready to go back to the Xfinity Series and run full-time there, which would open up their 2 full-time seats. And it's kind of up in the air as who's going to replace them, who will go into these cars, as well as could we get an announcement for what their Xfinity lineup will be next year, or is this just going to be a Cup Series announcement? And the rumors going around as far as who could fill these 2 slots if AJ Allmendinger goes back to the Xfinity Series. The main names I've seen are Daniel Hemrick as well as Ty Dillon, which would be huge for both those drivers. For Ty Dillon, who's I still say has never had a true shot with a solid Cup team. This could be it. This, to me, is a much stronger team than what Petty GMS was last year. It's obviously stronger than Spire Motorsports and Germain Racing, where Ty has spent most of his Cup career. So this would be a heck of an opportunity for him, as well as Daniel Hemrick. He didn't have the best rookie year with Richard Childress Racing in his 1 Cup Series season, but here he is a few years later. Now he's an Xfinity Series champion, getting the chance to go back and run the Cup Series schedule. Or we could be in store for a signing that's completely out of left field. Chris Rice has teased this. Could we see this be where Zane Smith is signed and put into a full-time Cup Series ride? Or could it be plucking someone like Sheldon Creed out of Richard Childress Racing? I don't have anything to, validate that rumor, but I'm trying to think out of left field of who you would go get and trying to keep it within the Chevy family. I think that would be a signing that no one really saw coming. So as you can see, silly season is in full swing, and while I think the Cup Series is winding down, the only other announcements besides Kaulig Racing that we really have left to wait for is Eric Almirola, what his plans are for next year. If he retires, is Zane Smith a lock to get that ride? Or with Spire Motorsports, if Ty Dillon goes to Kaulig, is that where Carson Hocevar will end up next season? On the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series sides, though, I believe that silly season is just getting ready to pick up. Sam Mayer just announced he's coming back next year in the 1 car for Junior Motorsports. That still leaves that 8 car open, and who knows who could fill that car. And for Joe Gibbs Racing, they have a couple holes they need to fill, especially with John Hunter Nemechek now going Cup Racing. And on the Truck Series side of it, you have Matt DiBenedetto, who just announced last week that he will not be coming back next year in that Rackley 25 truck. That's still a good solid team. Who fills that hole? So between all the announcements we may get this weekend, as well as the playoff racing we will see, you're not going to miss a minute of action that goes on at Bristol. And that'll wrap up this week's episode of 3 Wide. As always, thank y'all for joining me and watching along. If you haven't done it already, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you will know when our new videos drop, including our weekly fantasy pick shorts. And also in the description below is a link to our sponsor's website, Hunt to Harvest. Click on it, go check out their awesome hunting apparel. Let them know we sent you by using that promo code RADNEY18923. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their week and enjoys 3 straight nights of racing at Bristol.